Greece's rundown state hospitals are cutting off vital drugs, limiting non-urgent operations, and rationing even basic medical materials for exhausted doctors as a combination of economic crises and political stalemate strangle health funding. Greece is now in its fifth year of deep recession. It is trapped under Europe's biggest public debt burden and is dependent on international help to keep paying its bills. The effects are starting to bite deeply into vital services. It's a matter of life and death for us, said Persephone Mita, head of the Cancer Patients Association, recounting the dozens of calls she gets a day from Greeks needing pricey, hard-to-find cancer drugs. Why are they depriving us of life? Greece, a member of the Eurozone that groups some of the richest nations on earth, has descended so far that drug makers are even working on emergency plans to keep medicines flowing into the country should it crash out of the currency bloc. The emergency has grown out of a tangle of unpaid bills, with pharmacists and doctors complaining of being unable to pay suppliers until competing health insurers clear a growing backlog of unfilled state payments. Greece imports nearly all its medicine and relies heavily on patented rather than cheaper generic drugs, making it vulnerable to a funding squeeze that will grow sharply worse if it were forced out of the euro after elections on Sunday. Long queues have been forming outside a handful of pharmacies that still provide medication on credit. The rest are demanding cash up front until the government pays up a subsidy backlog of 762 million euros, or nearly $1 billion. We're not talking about painkillers here. We've learned to live with physical pain. We need drugs to keep us alive. Mita, a petite former marathon runner and herself a cancer survivor, said in a voice shaky with emotion. Greeks have long had to give medical staff cash gifts to ensure good treatment. Nevertheless, the health system was considered relatively efficient before the crisis, despite a variety of problems, including a fragmented organization and excess bureaucracy, according to a 2009 report for the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. But it has been unable to respond to the growing crisis. The European Union and the International Monetary Fund, which provided a 130 billion euro lifeline to Greece in March, have demanded big cuts to the system as part of a wider package of austerity measures. But powerful medical lobbies and unions have resisted fiercely. The current prime minister, who is in office until a new government is formed after the election, has pleaded for a solution but has been powerless to force a change. It is imperative that this matter is resolved immediately in order to prevent putting people's lives at risk, the Prime Minister said last week. Outside one of the 133 state hospitals whose managers have sometimes been appointed as supporters of whichever political party was in power at the time, a banner put up by protesting staff reads, "Hospitals belong to the people." Inside its gloomy corridors, a different story is told. A doctor at the University Hospital in the northwestern Athens suburb of Shardari cites a lack of basic examining room supplies in her own department, such as cotton wool, catheters, gloves, and papers used to cover the examining table. The shortage of paper, which is thrown out after the patient has used it, means corners have to be cut on hygiene. Sometimes we take a bed sheet instead and use it for several patients, said Kiki Kiel, a radiologist specializing in cancer screening. It's a tragedy, but there's no other solution. This is just one severe example of the consequences from a country not being able to pay its bills. The sick, elderly, and children will be the first to suffer, and the groups who will suffer the most. The storm in Europe is headed towards the United States, and we will undoubtedly experience the same problems and tough decisions that must be made and will be forced to be made due to lack of funds. Thanks for watching. Peace.